What's up everyone, welcome to Workshop Rebuild. In today's episode, it'll be a little bit different. I won't be working on any projects, but I will be sharing with you guys my ongoing projects inside the shop and outside of the shop. So let's get right to them. This right here is the John Deere 300 garden tractor. I'm very close to completing this garden tractor or this project in general. The last time you guys saw me with this tractor, it was running and driving flawlessly. Everything seemed to be okay. A couple adjustments had to be made. And then once I brought it back in, I noticed it was leaking on the check valves in the back. In my most recent video, I shared with you guys how to rebuild those check valves on the Skidsteer hydraulic motor. So I had to take off the rear fender and the fuel tank to get to the check valves. Once those were removed, I could rebuild them. And now the last thing I have to do is put it back together, and this tractor will be done on the rear end. Once the rear fender is mounted, I can then add a new seat, which I still need to purchase. On the front of the garden tractor, I'm nearly finished. The side fenders or side panels have been painted and everything is good there, but the air intake box or air intake cover is missing, so I will have to find that online. I haven't had any success yet. I'm trying to find it locally, but if not, I'll find it in the US. Other than that, this garden tractor is nearly complete. I already ordered the John Deere 300 decals. These are the ones without the stripes. So these are coming in. I'm not sure when exactly. Once that's in, I'll have them on, and then maybe I'll do a mower deck rebuild video. Since I just covered the John Deere 300 garden tractor project, let's head over to the John Deere 400. This right here is the John Deere 400 as a rolling frame. What that means is the rear differential, the rear wheels, the front axle, and the front wheels are still hooked up to the main frame. I took this out the other day and I gave it a good pressure wash. So everything within the frame rails is cleaned. Everything around the hydraulic motor and the rear differential is clean, and I can see already a little bit of damage and where the leaks were coming from. So that's a good sign. Up front, everything has been cleaned as well, but every part that comes off this machine must be cleaned, sanded, primed, and painted. So it's a long process to even make this part of the John Deere 400 look good again. Everything on the frame is basically black. The rear diff and the hydraulic motor are black as well. We have a little bit of rust in the middle where the instrumental panel was, so I have to take care of that and make sure that the rust is removed before I even prime this. Around the front, we have a little bit of rust as well. Where the engine was sitting, it's fairly good. I'm gonna have to check the hydraulic hoses and the main valve block, which is in this area. Over here on the cart, I took all these parts out the other day and had them pressure washed, so I have a good understanding of the damage that's involved in most of these parts, as well as the rust which is on some panels, and just some minor touch-ups which I have to do to most of these panels. The engine is right there, and the engine itself, which is the Kohler K532, will be its separate video. So I won't get into too much detail on the John Deere 400. There's a whole bunch of work. I have to do the same process on the John Deere 400 like I did on the John Deere 300 or 317 and other projects that I'm working on currently. So right here is the frame. We have the green fender and the hood behind me. It's a lengthy process to even just sand and clean everything off. I won't share that with you guys, but if I do get into detail on the frame, I will share that with you guys. Many people have commented on my videos. I appreciate all your comments, especially on the John Deere 400. Many of you guys have this tractor out there and you guys are restoring it yourselves. So I will try and get the best shots as possible to also share with you guys the knowledge that I have on my end. So I just shared with you guys the two most recent John Deere projects I'm working on, and now I'll head over to the other side of the shop and share with you guys a project which I haven't touched for a long time. This right here is the Gravely GMT9000. I haven't touched this tractor in a long time. My last two videos were kind of short on this video. I didn't go too much into detail because I didn't have the space back here. But now I have it in the middle of the shop under good light, and now I can work on it. The last time I did touch this machine, I was working on the wiring. So I double checked everything on the wiring side of things and everything seems to be okay. I won't hook up the alternator just yet because the engine has not been started after the rebuild. So when I walk up to the Gravely, the engine is in place. Everything is sound over here. The belts, the radiator, everything is in place. When we go up front, there's a whole bunch of wiring. I didn't tidy it up, but everything is plumbed in. So we have all our gauges tied up to the engine. Everything seems to be just fine. The linkages are set up, all these brackets are mounted, the brakes are adjusted, everything has been done in the rear. The last thing I will have to do is just add the seat, but I'm going to leave that away for now. Just in case I start it up, I need to make some adjustments here with the linkages. This tractor is very complete. I don't have any parts missing on this tractor. So I do have a mid-molar deck as well as a front loader by Quickway, which I might attach. But the next step is to get this engine up and running. Once that's done, I can add the panels, add the hood, add the seat. Then I'll have a running tractor, check all the fluids once more, and hopefully we can bring it outside. I do have a Quickway loader for this tractor, a mid-deck mower. I think there's a snowblower outside as well. It was a package deal. So we're gonna see what we can put on this tractor to make it worthwhile, and then also what kind of content I can share with you guys and how it performs outside. The next thing I'll discuss is a skid steer, which has been in the middle of the shop, and it's orange. Most of you probably don't even know the brand, but I will share with you guys the details right now. So the John Deere 300 garden tractor is a little bit in the way, but I will talk about the Thomas HL173 skid steer. This is similar to a Bobcat 753. It shares the exact same engine, which is a Kubota V2203. These skid steers or Bobcats are a little bit older and they're rated at around 50 horsepower. I'm not sure if they're exactly 50. It really depends on the setup. This engine is set up directly in line with the hydraulic motor. As for the Bobcat, which I'll share with you guys outside, has an engine and the hydraulic motor which are parallel, and it's belt driven. The engine has been rebuilt, the two drive motors left and right have been rebuilt, all hoses within the cab have been exchanged and renewed, so that was quite pricey. All four axle seals were new. The axles have been checked. I went through the axles, so everything there is in great condition. The chain cases, which are left and right, have been checked. The chains are tight. Everything on this skid steer is basically made to spec, just the way they did it back then. This is a 70s or late 70s machine. I will share with you guys some close-ups right here, but it has been collecting dust, and I hope to get this up and running very soon, because all we need is fluid for this machine, and then we can get it up and running. So I'll start in the back. Everything has been painted. The engine has been painted Kubota blue. This is a Kubota 4-cylinder, as I mentioned before. It has its own skid setup, so you guys can just basically take this engine out on a skid. That just bolts down to the main frame. The wiring still has to be tied in to the cab, and that's why I still have two wires hanging right there. I believe number 1 and 2. It has a small wiring harness just for the engine. This is a very mechanical machine. It's not anything like the new skid steers. But when we go down below, as you guys can see, the engine is perfectly new. Everything has been rebuilt. It's in line to the hydraulic motor, which is right here. I still have to do a little bit of touch-up painting, but as you guys can see, has been collecting quite a bit of dust. So all these linkages have to be checked in case one side of the drive is moving forward or backward. The pedals have to be painted. These pedals are to raise and lower your boom and your tilt function on the bucket, and then we have our hand grips, which are forward and reverse for this skid steer. When we look at it from the front, you guys can also see the new hydraulic hoses which I installed. There's a whole bunch here. I think there's about 10 hoses, which was really pricey, as I mentioned before. And then we go up front, everything has to be cleaned up and touched up. The quick attach plate has not been set up yet. We probably need some new pins on the quick attach assembly. This right here is the bottom plate, so you put this from the bottom. This will keep all the debris out, but at the same time it acts as a debris collector within the machine. As I mentioned before, this machine is very mechanical, so it's not the newest machine out there, but therefore it might not give you as many problems as the newer ones with a whole bunch of electronics and stuff that may break down. So yeah, that's why this machine is right here. Hopefully we can get this up and running very soon. But for now, I'll take you guys outside and share with you guys my ongoing projects outside. This right here is the Bolens HT20. I did a full restoration on this garden tractor. I left out the rear end. I used it for about 10 hours, and then I noticed something was wrong on the rear end. In my last video on the Bolens HT20, I tore down the rear end and I shared with you guys the damage within the differential. The bull gear was damaged and damaged very badly. It's not easy just to find a bull gear. That's the main damage on this rear end. I'm looking online and I'm also talking to some people, but we'll see when it comes in, and when it comes in I will put this back together and I hopefully can get this tractor back up and running, because it's a very nice tractor. It has a whole bunch of power, and I also have some nice attachments for it. I have a rototiller and a snow blade. So other than that, everything looks good. Everything was good for the first 10 hours, but then this happened, so you never know what you're getting into, especially if it's a barn find. But without further ado, let me take you to the next project. This right here is the manual lathe. I did a new workshop edition video on this. I'll leave a link up above so you guys can watch that video. This is a long lathe. It is very heavy. I think it weighs around 4,000 pounds, if not a little bit more. So it's not the easiest thing to move around, but I will have it in the shop here very soon. And I want it in the shop before the snow falls. So I'm not sure what I will do with this lathe, if I'll share with you guys a certain amount of episodes, or if I will just share with you guys one video on how I do everything to this lathe. I think that will be a little bit more interesting. And then once I have this lathe up and running, then I can share with you guys how I machine parts here and how I also fix parts in the near future. So enough talk on a machine under a tarp. Let's move on to the next project, which is still sitting outside. The machine I'm sitting on right here is a Bobcat 753. This is an older machine. I believe it's a 90s machine. I'm not quite sure. This machine was found out in the bush. There were leaves in it. There were even a couple little trees growing in it. And I brought it to this state. This was quite the project because it was an on and off project. I really didn't know what was missing or what I needed to install and where I need to install it. I didn't even have any drawings or pictures. I just went off of Google Images, so I went online and I looked for other Bobcats, zoomed in the picture, and then I mounted the parts where they belong. I was lucky that I wasn't missing many parts. Some parts did have to be purchased, but this is the state it's in. Currently, it runs and drives. The engine has been rebuilt, the pump has been rebuilt and gone through. So everything on this Bobcat is just like the Thomas Skidsteer. It's in great condition. It even looks good. It was completely repainted. The decals have been renewed. This machine has an original hour meter and it only shows around 2,000 hours, which is very low. It did have an engine problem. That's why it was put away. But luckily I was able to pick this up for a good deal. And I brought it to this state. It runs and drives like I mentioned, but it does not lift the arms and it doesn't retract the tilt. So I'm gonna have to finish this up before the snow falls as well, because it would be nice to have this machine up and running very soon to even push some snow around. So I will have another video on the Bobcat 753 very soon once I figure out what the issue is, and then I can share that with you guys. So on to the last project I have outside. This right here is the Allis Chalmers B/C. What that means is the front end is an Allis Chalmers B and the back end is an Allis Chalmers C. The Allis Chalmers C is a little bit wider than the B, and that's why you guys can see the rear tires are not in line with the front tires. The B has the tires in line with the front tires. So what did I do to this Allis Chalmers B/C? I rebuilt the engine. There's still a whole bunch of parts inside which I will mount. They just haven't been painted yet, and that's why I haven't mounted them. Onto the back, I rebuilt the PTO. So the PTO works once again when you activate the lever. Before it was just disengaged. There was something loose internally. Good thing it didn't chew up any gears, but that has been redone. The brakes and the brake drums have been renewed. The final drive seals have been renewed. The bearings have been checked, and everything has been greased and oiled up accordingly. So this tractor will be back in the shop hopefully by this winter, and we'll work on it once again, and hopefully we can get it up and running, because I have a super nice attachment for this, which is a belly mounted sickle mower. That will have to be reviewed and or rebuilt as well, because there are a whole bunch of moving components on that. It's driven off the rear PTO, comes out and around, and off to the side between the wheels. There will be a super nice attachment. That would be a super nice attachment, because I'm looking forward to use this tractor here very soon. Once I have all 8 projects finalized and everything is running and driving, I can move on to some other projects which I have behind me here. There are some very interesting projects. Some are a little bit older, some are a little bit newer. If you guys enjoy the content you're seeing, you guys can subscribe, because I will have ongoing projects. I hope to get about 2 videos out every week if possible. Some projects do need more labor, and therefore I don't have as much time to edit, but I will try my best and share with you guys what I'm working on currently. So stick around.